I think the last Mission Impossible I watched was Rogue Nation, back whenever that came out. And to be honest, I can't even be sure that that's the one I saw. And this is a pretty good insight into how I, and I think many, view the Mission Impossible series. They're fun action movies that let you come and go as you please. You can jump into any of the Mission Impossible films and not feel lost if you haven't seen the preceding films. You can still sit back, grab some popcorn, and get lost in the action for a couple hours. And at the heart of this series is, of course, Tom Cruise. He's shown time and time again that he is a bona fide moneymaker at the box office, and for all the weirdness that may be found in his personal life, the guy truly seems to be an entertainer first and foremost. From his serious action sequences to his risky stunts, from his light-hearted moments of comedy during tense scenes to his incredible running form, Tom Cruise has owned the role of Ethan Hunt from day one, and the series would be an empty shell without him. And luckily for moviegoers, Tom Cruise and this new Mission Impossible are both back, and possibly better than ever. But let's get a quick recap of the events of Dead Reckoning Part 1 before going any further. So it goes without saying, yet I must say it anyway, but spoilers ahead. Dead Reckoning takes place in a world where ChatGPT has gone rampant, and now the AI system, now calling itself the Entity, has started to act of its own accord, threatening to destabilize the world. Governments and other interested parties want the key to the Entity to take control of it for their own nefarious designs, and Ethan Hunt is seemingly the only person in the world who wants to destroy it. This puts him at odds with his direct superior at the CIA, who demands that he bring the key in so the government can wield the Entity. Caught up in the hunt for the two halves of the key that presumably controls the Entity is Ethan's friend, Ilsa Faust, a rogue agent who just so happens to have one half of the key. She entrusts her half to Ethan, who sets out to track down the other half. But he's intercepted and robbed of the key by Grace, a master thief who's been hired to retrieve it. All the while, the US government has dispatched a security team to bring the key in, even if it means killing Hunt. And complicating matters is the re-emergence of Gabriel, a shadowy villain whose killing of a woman named Marie years earlier led to Ethan becoming a spy. He's working on behalf of the Entity and is using an assassin to do his dirty work. On Ethan's side of things, he and his two sidekicks Luther and Benji are joined by Ilsa as they try and get the key from Grace, who ends up being pretty slippery. Eventually, Gabriel tracks down Grace and is about to kill her when Ilsa shows up to stop him. Gabriel ends up killing Ilsa and escaping, and Ethan is forced to see another woman he cared deeply for die. Traumatized, Grace is convinced, for now, to work with Ethan's team to help steal the missing half of the key from an arms dealer on a train. On the train, Gabriel is causing mayhem, and we find out the US government is the prospective buyer for the key, and Grace, posing as the arms dealer, is faced with a choice. Walk away with a boatload of cash anonymously, or keep the key to turn over to Ethan. She chooses to turn down the money and gets away momentarily with the key, but is soon caught. But then Ethan bursts through the window to save the day. He ends up dueling with Gabriel on top of the train and trying to kill him before the security team that's been pursuing Ethan stops him. Gabriel escapes, but Ethan does end up with the key. Thanks to the assassin he spared earlier, Ethan and Grace survive the runaway train sliding off a blown-up bridge. She tells Ethan where to use the key, Grace turns herself over to the CIA director as Ethan suggested, and Ethan himself escapes with the key, and Part 1 comes to an end. The bottom line for Dead Reckoning is that this is simply a great action flick that plays around with the themes of revenge, redemption, uncertainty, and sacrifice. The movie's not exactly the most creative when coming up with its different action sequences, but all of them are executed extremely well, and you end up being thoroughly entertained all the way through. Tom Cruise shines as usual, and in fact, there's few blemishes to be found on the cast for this one. Everyone pulled their weight and turned in a good performance, and at a minimum, there's never really a moment that totally takes you out of things, which is really the barometer of good acting in an action movie. There's plenty of Tom Cruise's typical moments of humor sprinkled right in the middle of tense action sequences, and all of the humor, drama, and action seem incredibly well balanced. Gabriel is a pretty good villain, and Esai Morales owns the role, although I felt like the last scene where we see him yelling at the sky kind of undercuts the calm, calculating character the movie had been building up, but it's a minor complaint. Now, it's probably just because it's fresh in my mind, but I can't help but compare this movie to Indiana Jones in that Dead Reckoning seemed to pull off everything that Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny tried and failed to do. It had exciting chase sequences that were an appropriate length. It mixed the right amount of humor and the right kind of humor into its action scenes, something that was a staple of Indiana Jones, but that the Dial of Destiny bungled. The main female character in Dead Reckoning, Grace, actually goes through a character arc, unlike Helena. Much like Helena was intended to be, Grace is a self-serving, morally ambiguous / borderline bad person. She's out to get rich, and on multiple occasions she steals the key from Ethan and leaves him to his death or capture. But when Ilsa stops Gabriel from killing her and dies in the process, Grace sees the light for the first time. Now, she wasn't totally done being shady and her allegiance was still in question, but there were at least signs that she may come around. Then, when she's posing as the arms dealer, she's offered everything her greedy little heart desires. A boatload of cash and a clean slate with which she can disappear. But her conscience catches up to her and she turns a corner, choosing to do the right thing instead of the self-serving thing. Now compare that to Helena from Indiana Jones. Helena doesn't have any of these moments where she, quote, sees the light. The one time she's confronted about her awful ways, she issues a one-word apology and never revisits the matter. In fact, in the next scene, she reaffirms her commitment to being a self-serving asshole. Then, at the end of the film, she chooses to do the quote-unquote right thing by saving Indy totally on a whim. She just flipped a switch and decided to do good and be good. It was totally robotic because it came out of nowhere. She didn't go through any kind of character arc to justify the redemption arc at the end. And whereas Grace is choosing between everything she's ever wanted or doing the right thing, Helena's choice is simply between doing the right thing or not doing the right thing. She doesn't have everything she's ever wanted on the line. She's not sacrificing anything by choosing to do the right thing. In fact, you could argue that she makes the selfish choice by wanting to keep Indiana Jones in her life rather than letting him make his own decisions. My God, Helena sucked so much ass. And the last and most important comparison where Dead Reckoning excels past Dial of Destiny is of course the box office. Releasing on a Wednesday was a little weird, but the movie still seems to be on track for a pretty big opening box office, while Dial of Destiny is one of the biggest financial flops in recent memory. Now, while Dead Reckoning is pretty damn good, the movie's definitely not perfect. The whole premise of a runaway AI system is a little groan-inducing given the recent discourse over AI's place in society. Ethan's backstory and his rivalry with Gabriel seems pretty contrived, and the movie's too long with a nearly 3-hour runtime. But to Dead Reckoning's credit, there's enough storylines and action to keep the movie from feeling like a chore to get through. Honestly, I haven't seen enough of the Mission Impossible films to say this is the best one yet, but that seems to be the buzz going around. As for us, we're saying Dead Reckoning Part 1 is a great watch, and while it's not perfect, we think it's worth your time and your money, and it may just restore a little faith in moviegoers. And with Dead Reckoning Part 2 coming out next summer, the hype should be pretty real. Have you already, or do you plan to see Dead Reckoning? What do you think this movie did right at a time where so many other big budget films are losing money? Let us know in the comments. And remember to hit that thumbs up if you liked the video, and click the subscribe button to stay tuned to Hate Watchers for reviews of other current shows and movies. Thanks for choosing to accept this mission with us, and we'll catch you on the next one.